you see where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
You identified your subject material. You went to the TLO, Texas Legislature Online. You looked up a word that you thought would help you to find whatever took place in the 82nd, and it identified 268. You went through those to find out which one you want. In this case, we chose 3160. Then we said, show us what you suggested in the 82nd, and we found out that it died. And now we want to know what it was before it died. What was it before the change was requested? And we found it. So now it's time to think about what it is we've discovered. And as you well know, these topics go off in a million different directions. Yes, ma'am.
Who exactly is the chairman of the election committee?
In guy's
The
name
House.
is,
Because really, you know, when you go down there, you realize how important.
I mean, we're getting there.
Okay.
We're getting there.
Okay, because that's
All
what
right,
it's
so here's things you need to think about. And it's going right into what she's talking about.
Okay.
We now see that we want to change the old code, and we think that what the guy did in the 82nd was good. Right? So, will the suggested modification to the code cost anything? Remember that was those little fiscal things? If we say that they've got to have proof of citizenship, will that cost our government any money? You need to think about that. Chances are, you and I think off the top, how could it? It's going to be borne by the person trying to register. But it will cost some time to get this thing verified. Anyway, we'll see. Can you obtain support from the House and the Senate? That's something to think of. And if what you change in that bill, such as the one that we looked at for the 82nd, will it accomplish what you want? What we wanted was proof of citizenship, that somebody on the voter registration file is a citizen of the United States of America and can prove it. Yes, yes?
Right.
So the answer to this question is yes. Can you obtain support from the House and the Senate? Do you think that that bill that you proposed, presuming the one we just looked at, 3160 was yours, do you think anybody in the Senate would support it? You say what? You say yes. Anybody else think somebody would support it?
There's a Tea Party on their tail. They will support it.
I think they would support it if they had enough public pressure to support it.
Excellent response. And if they do not have public pressure to support it, do you think anybody in the Senate would join in?
No.
You're absolutely right. Who wrote, you say, who wrote this bill? Anybody know? Van Taylor. You all know who Van Taylor is?
I think it was Kim Paxton, but you're right. It was
Van Taylor.
Van Taylor.
Van Taylor wrote it. How long did it take Van Taylor to write this bill?
Not long at all.
Took him 1 year to author this bill. What is the procedure that a legislator uses to author a bill? Particularly a newbie like Van Taylor and anybody else with any experience. The procedure is you call your staff in. Right? How did I find this out? I went to that man's office and I called him. I said, we need to get together. He said, 3 o'clock tomorrow. I'll be there. I was. It's a 2-man office, him and his office person. On the telephone, when I got there, was the entire remainder of his staff down in Austin. He was glad to see me. He's not my rep. He does know who I am. He was glad somebody was in there to talk about something that he was doing. You're interested in something I wrote. I thought the man wanted to marry me. His entire staff. They were excited. I will share with you that my purpose for being there was to learn the best way to get this happen. I can tell you his purpose for being there was to share everything he's currently working on. Two entirely different subject matters. We arranged for an hour and we took an hour. I did learn that, remember I had outlined things like Department of Public Safety? The bill made reference to the Department of Public Safety. Remember that? So his staff trotted on over to the Department of Public Safety and investigated the ramifications of the suggested change. I outlined another area that was identified in that bill. His staff went on numerous occasions to that place to investigate the ramifications of the changes he was proposing in his bill. They discussed this for some time when determining the verbiage to put in the bill. Right? So, talking directly with the two departments, Secretary of State and the driver's folks, he was able to determine and discover how the voter registration file worked and what the differences are between Texas and Georgia. Why Georgia? Georgia requires registrants to be citizens. How do they do it? It cost them $2 million is the short story. They bought another database. And on that database they can check citizenship. I can tell you right now, Texas is not going to go Georgia's route, nor is any other state, but we would certainly like to. So anyway, yes ma'am.
So the two people that were in Mr. Taylor's office, would that be considered the legislative liaisons to him?
There was one person that was in his office there was his clerk that does legislative work, and then the people that were on the conference call down in Austin, his entire staff in Austin, they are his staff members that they're the guys that do this work.
So in the normal legislator's office, I mean, try to get a better idea of their functions or responsibilities that they perform?
They know the system. They know how.
I'm saying for us to build that relationship with them.
That's right. And I have built that relationship now with several people, and I'm working on a third. That's working very good. The heck with the legislator, other than to find out information. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about what Dennis was referring to. What I did is I called Van. He was driving back from Austin the other day, and I said, I want to know what happened to 3160. Why did it fail? He's the author, so I thought I'd ask him first. Right? Who's the next person to talk to after Van? The committee chair. Right?
Yeah.
Why? What happened? Why did it? So anyway, you got to do your research. So I called Van.
Our committee members.
Yeah. And what do you suppose this is a perfectly good bill? Why do you suppose it didn't pass? Anybody have any idea? No.
Oh, it says there was no cost.
Because we're gonna open borders, of course.
You're right. Let me explain this open borders crap from a different standpoint. Texas has a line drawn horizontally right across the middle. You probably can't see it, but you could look at it if you looked at who got elected from where. In South Texas, there are a lot of Democrats. And in North Texas, there are a lot of Republicans. The Senate has a lot of Democrats. The Senate composition of membership, if that bill were to pass, would have a dramatic change at the next election. They will not, DEM, will not allow this change to happen. I'll give you a little historical review.
Why is the Obama administration objecting to Texas voter ID law if we don't have if that didn't pass? Do you have any idea?
Well, coming out of the Senate from Patrick, Senator Patrick, was a voter ID law. a little different, SB something. And that did pass, right?
Well, this is citizens.
And what happened is that they came down here and said, you can't do that. And so that is immediately going to the courts. But right now, if you come in to vote, you do not have to show an ID. And did the ID force you as it was to be a citizen? No, that photo ID law was not strong enough to make sure you were a citizen. To wit, I had discussed this personally with Patrick 2 years ago when the legislation was going through. And he said that's the only way we can get this through. And how Cindy describes it is very accurately. You work in bits and pieces. You get a part of it to go through, and then you add to it as you go. And pretty soon you can, that's their methodology. And we need to learn how to do it. So they did have a voter ID bill. It's currently in the court system. When it comes out, then it needs to be amended. And what I'm showing you is how to do your research, how to address these issues, and what procedure. So here's the deal, folks. What this required of me was to sit at my computer using the internet and to look up I looked up a word, citizenship. I found a number, HB 3160 and a few others. I read them. Then I went and looked at the original legislation. I found out who the author was. Now listen, I found out who the author was. Fantastic. Right? I called him. He was glad to talk. It was his bill. He was glad to talk about it. And all the rest, he's working on 42 bills right now. 46 bills. And he'll talk about any of them.
Right, he's the real deal.
He's the real deal.
He really is.
But I tell you, he's no different than the rest of those. I just talked with Senator Patrick. Right? I want to ask him what's happening to his bill. He's got another bill that's excellent. And they want to talk about it. It's fun. And if you use your local representatives, which Van Taylor was here in Collin County, you can go to his office, you can sit down and spend all day talking. And what you're looking for is this is a good bill. Why did it fail? And please tell me why it didn't go through. Because nobody in the Senate would join up. And his response to that was, it's got to reside on another bill. And then I can get it through. Cindy.
Could you back up and explain why we got off the subject of writing our own legislation? Because I don't think that was clear.
What we're doing is looking up the legislation that you want to pass. We had subjects like Sharia law, taxes, and citizenship. We chose one of those, which was citizenship. So in the process to working on citizenship, and in this case, the voters must be citizens. We also want, you won't believe this, we also want to change the laws so that our elected officials are citizens.
That's right.
And the McKinney, it doesn't exist now. The McKinney Tea Party is currently working on that. This one, in this case, we're just following the example.
So even though you have an author of the bill, and the person presenting it, you may have co-sponsors, but I'd like to see this nonsense of the piggybacking stop. A bill should be for a bill, period.
Do you remember Cindy's response a couple of minutes ago? If enough of us talk to our senators, it is possible.
Ken Paxton, would he do it?
Call him.
Okay.
Call him. Print the bill out and call him. If each one of you were to if you were to go back to your group has the same guy,
I know.
Ken Paxton. And if you asked everybody in your group, if you shared this type of message with everybody, and asked them all in the group to call Ken Paxton,
I know.
right?
Well.
Your presence has been detected and recorded. Thank you.